And I'm going to tell you, the last 2 years, of course, we never expected where we were, and we never expected how things were going to be. And with Bug's help, we were able to build a whole awareness campaign about our home-delivered meals. Before the pandemic, we were doing 3,000 meals a day. We're doing 10,000 meals.
Oh my gosh.
And we are feeding people in our community every day that we didn't even know were hungry until the pandemic shined the light on the fact that they were hungry and they didn't know where to go and ask for help. And so that continued growth, that continued shining the light on things is how we become better at what we do in our community and understanding the gaps in services. When I look down my looking glass of what the next thing is that I think you're probably going to hear me screaming about is we have so many seniors, and our fastest growing population in Petaluma are those of us who are 60 and older, who are at risk of losing their housing. And if we don't do something as a community, and if we don't figure out the solutions, we are going to have not only the 300 people that we already have unhoused in our community, but we're going to have thousands of seniors sleeping in their cars or in a mobile home or in the back of a camper because they've lost their ability to live in their home. And that's going to be the next phase of what we have to do. And at PPSC, we'll lead the charge, but we know that the whole community will charge with us. In fact, we're doing something for the Veterans Parade, and we thought it would be very cool to ask our community to do cards, kids to create cards that say thank you for your service, that we're going to hand out to the veterans along the parade route. And I suspected, we would have like 100, 200. Well, you can barely get in my office because there's so many cards to hand out to the veterans at the parade.
So cool.
This town shows up.
Yeah.
This town is a model at how community should work and does work.
And I know it's so difficult for a lot of people to ask for help. Mm-hmm. That might be the most difficult bridge. At one point, I remember I asked COTS if there was any people, Committee on the Shelterless, if there was any people that wanted some part-time work before Christmas, because we were going to do a Christmas show at the Petaluma Library Museum with the amazing Susan Villa, who was executive director then. And 7 people came up to work. The shortest one was half an hour, but the longest one was Scotty, and he stayed, and then he stayed, and then he stayed, and 3 months later he's still working for us, and he's great, and he loves what he's doing, and he asked me if I could help him get his kid back, and I went to court with him and helped him get his kid back. And at one point, Sergeant Ken Savano maybe it was Lieutenant Ken Savano at that point, came up because he'd bought a refectory table from us, and he said, Bug, I don't have a truck big enough to take this to my house. Can I borrow the box truck? And I said, yeah. I said, do you want Scotty to go along and help you? And he said, oh, I'd love that. And, and the chief, the lieutenant's there in his uniform, and Scotty says, can I ride in the front? And ever since then, every year, and he's still working and still happy with his kid.